Check, check, quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, how you doing today? Welcome back, at the Buzzers.
Welcome
Good to
back
have
to
you
our
back.
buzzer beaters. How are we doing today? Happy Monday. Rufus King says we're sounding good. I'm saying we're looking good. So everything is good. Happy Monday. Microphone check.
Checking again. Can you hear me,
Yep,
Coach?
sounds good over here. Sounds good. Welcome to At the Buzzer, everyone. Our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but our goal as traders is to identify opportunities, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5. And that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a little over a year and a half as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. And bringing some of my experience and hopefully wisdom to help you as a trader become a profitable trader or improve your trading.
Awesome. Just want to make an announcement before we do get started. We know that there were some issues with TopstepX earlier today. Just got a confirmation that our platform partner has confirmed an issue with TopstepX on today, November 18th. All negative trades from market open, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, to market close, 3:10 p.m. Central Time, will be removed at the end of the trading day. So if anyone was here looking for an update on that, all losing trades from New York session open to close will be wiped from your accounts. Be patient with the support team. They're probably not even going to take care of it. It is just going to get wiped from the platform. So yes, every loser, and again, that loser has to be between the hours of 8:30 Central Time and 3:10 Central Time. So if you decided to YOLO your account today and you lost it, like a cat, you got another life. I don't know how many lives you have left on these accounts, but try not to do that and hope to get bailed out. So yes, all losing trades between the New York session will be removed. So
Wow.
shout out to Topstep, always making it right. Coach, I want to talk about that a little bit. Platform issues. We've seen it during the chat today on YouTube, right? Of course, no brokerage, no trading platform wants things to go down, right? Ideally, in a perfect world, everything works correctly. And as a trader, we don't really get to decide when that happens. But the one thing I think we do get to decide is how we respond to it. How do you normally go about your trading day if you experience any platform issues?
Well, if I experience, there's nothing much that I can do. I have my stops in, um, and I have to accept that this happens now and again. Um, One thing I will say is you need to be prepared for it, whether it's a platform issue or an internet issue or a computer issue. This is part of the game. Um, and of course, I'm not happy. It's very frustrating,
Right.
but I can't let that frustration lead to poor decisions. So, so I'll always have a stop in number one. Even if the platform goes down, the stop is in the exchange server. I can at least have some form of control. Um, and by the way, platform issues happen on every platform.
Every single one of them. Every single one of them. Coach, give me 1 second. If you want to just talk to our audience real quick, I'll be back in like 15 seconds. I just need to move the dog. She's at the door crying. So give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Right. But take care of the dog first. So yeah, and going back to platform issues, they're going to happen. Um, I used to just get angry. Um, that never solved the problem. Um, Backups, um, that's kind of expensive. But Unfortunately, in this electronic trading environment, it can happen.
It
Um,
is going to happen. And just to confirm, that is for XFAs and combines. Live account traders, I'm sure there's going to be some communication, but for XFAs and combines, that will be fixed. All right, let's get into it. We didn't have much on the calendar as far as news goes today, Coach. I think the big news is Nvidia earnings on Wednesday.
yeah, that's,
Pretty pretty quiet today. We do have a housing starts number out tomorrow, Canadian CPI as well. That may give us some volatility, but for today, just some Fed speakers, not really saying too much. And that's it as far as news goes. We will get into the charts.
let's just start. Oh, coach, I can't see the charts.
You can't see the charts. All right, let me fix that real quick. How about now?
No.
Nope. All right. One more second. And you should be able to see them. Now, there you go.
Ah, there we go. See,
All right.
being patient.
There we go. He could have yelled at me. He could be like, "Hey, what are you
You
doing?" But
well,
no, there you go. You
so-
should have the charts up now. You don't have to do anything in order to, get back your losses. It'll be automatically updated in the platform. If you're the trader that trades, as soon as Globex opens tomorrow and you see your balance is not corrected yet, I would say be patient. Just, make sure things are fixed before you just get right back into trading. And if you're like, "Hey, it's a perfect setup," practice patience. It's going to be okay. Um, the one thing I did see as far as news goes, Coach, and we see it on the headlines here: Trump to meet privately with Coinbase CEO. Uh, that might be a reason we saw a little bit of a spike in Bitcoin towards the end of the day. All right. So let's look at the markets. We trade about 35 different markets at Topstep. Like to look at the biggest percentage movers. Not a lot on the quote board to the downside today. We have the Dow down 0.13%, Ultra Bonds down 0.2%, and the Japanese yen, our biggest percentage mover, if you even want to call it that, down 0.26% to the downside. To the upside, we have the energies, crude oil up 3.53%, heating oil up 3.9%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 4.85%. To round out our big four, we already talked about crude. We have gold up 1.77%. And where are the S&Ps and the Nasdaq? The Nasdaq up 0.66% and the S&Ps up 0.35%. All right. I got an S&P chart up here, Coach. Go ahead.
Yeah, that sharply unchanged. I wasn't even sharply; it was just unchanged. It wasn't
Right.
even a violent. There was no violence to it.
Not a lot of violence at all. So we know we had the sell-off on Friday, right? Thursday into Friday. I had mapped this out on the market kickoff last night, but Friday's daily range in the S&P is 59.74 at the high, 58.76 at the low. What I was looking for was, potential to retrace some of this move at least to 50%. 50% of this range was 59.25 half. And it's kind of what we did and rejected from there, right? Here's last night's open. This white rectangle here, last night's open. We have Vwap attached to that. And Scott Vaughn made a good point. He said if you just use the regular Vwap on TopstepX, it resets every day. So you don't have to manually anchor here. It's a good point. I manually anchor it myself just because I'm going to put, anywhere from 1 to 5 of those on my charts throughout the day. So I just want all the lines to be the same color. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, I agree. I agree, and it does reset. So, but make sure one thing I like to do is make sure it's where I want it to be.
Absolutely. So, last night we had what looked like that potential urgency trade. Last night where we're leaving, let me make sure I'm looking at last night, leaving this range to the upside. Had a decent trade. Wasn't the most urgent move, and we see a little bit of a retracement from it. We have the New York session open coming into here. We bounce off the low of this Globex open, which was at 58.90, and traded back up. Coach and I were talking before we got on here. He's like, I'm kind of bored with today's price action, and it wasn't wasn't a whole lot of action, right? Outside of the New York session open, we got that bounce, Coach, off of Globex, off of
Yeah,
the
it was.
Globex open. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was a nice steady buy action there. Looked like it was going to go to the moon.
Yeah, it did. There's the New York session open for you there. Kind of consolidated a little bit. We don't see any high volume events or anything like that. Just kind of a steady move back up. And it looked like maybe some short covering from Friday and Thursday and Friday sell off, where we got to that 50% and rejected from there. Decent opportunity. I did take a short in the S&Ps. I was doing a VIP call and we saw this high volume come in, and this is at 11:48, 10:48 Central Time. The range of that candle was 59.29. The low was 59.22. And I took this short because that was the highest volume we saw outside of the open to the downside. And my thought process was take the short and risk the highs of where that volume came in. If I can get a short anywhere in this range, risking the high. And it ended up being a decent trade. Ultimately, the target on that trade was this New York session anchored VWAP, which we got to. It took a very long time to get there, but it was a small trade that I took, just a one lot. And just patience, right? It allowed the market the room it needed to work, saw the high volume and went from there. But outside of that, that's the one trade I had on the S&P.
Yeah, nice trade. It took some patience.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, it was really. I think his market is tired of the volatility,
Yeah.
um, and just uh, it was very calm. Um, so a nice breakout. I like the trade of the breakout in from the opening range, but I really after that I was fighting, falling asleep.
Yeah. Yeah. It was definitely an interesting one today. Um, and again, just to reiterate that announcement, yes, all losing trades between the hours of 8:30 Central and 3:10 Central will be reset today. They do not count. Gotta love trading with a prop firm, right? Because if that was your brokerage account, Coach, tough luck.
Oh well, yeah, they don't.
Yeah.
You sign that waiver.
Yep.
Um, there'll be no courtesy checks for you.
Not at all. Pulling up the Nasdaq real quick. Very much the same day in the Nasdaq. We have Friday's range, 50% of Friday's range, right to 50% of it at 20,709. Of course, it doesn't stop exactly there, but we can see the hesitation, right? And I look for this all the time. If we have a 2% down day in the Nasdaq, I'm looking for a 50% retracement of it at some point. Now, does that mean I can just blind buy it and get there? No, but it does present some opportunity. We can see the Globex 30-minute opening range right here. Set the low on the day on the open. But again, trade location matters because although the Globex open set the range, if I got long somewhere above that opening range, there was this pullback that may have stopped me out. So trade location still matters on days like this. But again, like the S&P, it's kind of one move for the New York session, and it kind of fizzled out after that. Go ahead, Coach.
Went right back to the lows. Couldn't take them out.
Yep.
Wow, that's pure sideways action. For those of you who trade range bound markets, I'd imagine this was a great day. Um, but
For
like you
sure.
said, Coach, I- this is after the Friday's move, back up, correctional. I don't, seems to me that that's like I said, even all these markets are taking a rest here.
Yeah.
Um, we're
Waiting
now
for
halfway through November. What do you say?
right. Coming into holiday season, waiting for the biggest earnings report of all time. After the last biggest earnings report of all time that we had a
Yeah.
couple months ago, we do have Nvidia earnings on Wednesday, so the markets may consolidate prior to that. Let's go to a daily chart real quick on the Nasdaq. We have this 20-day moving average, which was at 20,655. Closed below it again, second day in a row. We were closing below this 20-day moving average. Maybe the potential for a test of the 50, but we will see. If we look at a daily, these markets are still in a very strong uptrend, just hanging out for a little bit.
As we pointed out Friday on the weekly charts, this really that was that break last week really
It
was
wasn't a
in the
break.
card. Yeah, it was in the cards.
It was like a pit stop. Um, so let's move on. Let's go to the metals. Let's look at gold. Got gold on that's a weekly chart. Still pretty bullish. Let's go down to a daily on gold. A little bit of a retracement we've seen. I've been talking about this 200 moving average here, and the market's going to make a liar out of me. It's not going to test it, but I shouldn't say it's not going to. It's turned around. The market's going to do whatever it wants. But we had this little kind of hammer candle here on the daily, and then seeing us turn around. What are you seeing in gold, Coach?
Still in a bull market. What we have 6 straight days of downward movement, but as we talked Friday, tight range, balancing out. We finally get used to be called a relief rally.
Hmm.
Can it continue? Sure, but I think it's taking quite a hit. Um, one of these difference. We'll see if that 20 crosses the 50 moving average, which would
Mm.
not be healthy for bulls. Um, like I said, we're coming quickly to the end of the year.
Yep.
Um, if there was profit taking, maybe we had it, but I see a lot of sideways market action right now. I don't think there's going to be a big reason to go either way. But if it turns around and goes through that low, I think it's going to pick up some steam. Um, but nice. Let's look at the half hour.
Here's
Oh,
the half hour. Yeah, right here. What's that white line, Coach?
uh, that would be the 200 bar moving average.
Yes, it is. 200 bar moving average right now on the 30-minute chart is at 25.88. I'm going to take these off for a
Wow.
second. And if we look at last night's open, we did gap up in gold. And the metals, some metals more than others, presented some of that urgency trade we were looking for. I was doing the market kickoff last night and we were talking about gold. And, for a little while, right, that first half hour prints, we have a decent range. It does gap up. Uh, the next two 30-minute candles, we're kind of consolidating in the range. Uh, but then as we get into the Asian session starting, we see volume start to increase. Uh, and there's your urgency. Now, this 30-minute candle closed, 20 points above where the range high is. Uh, but it gave us a decent opportunity on a pullback to VWAP in order to get in. Um, maybe you could enter
Yeah.
here. Go ahead, Coach.
Boy, they must be watching the show.
I think so.
that that was good volume too for night.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. In
Was
a
that on
30-minute.
the was that on Tokyo Open?
Yes, it was. Yeah, it was. So let's go down to a shorter time frame. On a 30-minute, we had a volume spike there, but you can see it here. Here's the open, right? Asian session open right here on a 3-minute chart, and there's your urgency, right? We see the volume pick up, kind of get some continuation there, and almost looks identical to the setup on the 30-minute chart, right? Where it hung out in this range for a little bit. We get, a couple of downward candles, but it doesn't break this low. It holds. VWAP holds up as well, and just a really nice opportunity to buy. And then as we get into the London session, we're kind of using that Asian session opening range as the high or as a support and bouncing right off of that. By the time we get into New York, it's time to go.
Yeah.
It's a really nice trade here. Anyone trade gold in the chat? I know Coach Hoop was talking about it last night. He said it was cooking early. Anyone trade gold or any of the metals? What's that volume profiled at the bottom called? This here is just the volume indicator. It's volume by candle, right? So volume profile is normally up on the right side of your charts, and it's giving you volume by price. What I have here is just volume by time frame, right? So each 3-minute candle, I'm looking at the volume in that way. We got some gold traders in the chat. We got some silver traders, some gold traders. Coach, you were talking about a metal before we got on here.
Platinum.
Yeah, want to look at it?
Yeah, let's look at platinum. So there was some urgency there.
Platinum, out of the metals, was the biggest percentage mover. 3% move in platinum today. Like we said, there it is.
Yeah, never look back. Look at that. Never closed below VWAP. Finished near the highs of the day, and it hasn't done that in a while.
Yeah.
That was definite. It just kept on coming. So classic. If we look at a 3-minute, let's see if they see anything. Probably much the same. Yeah.
On the 30, we saw we crossed above that 200 moving average, but here's the opening 3-minute volume for the session open. Pretty high volume, and from that point, did not look back. We closed above VWAP and never, even on a 3-minute, never closed below it. There we go. Had to be one.
Was that the close? 12,
Yep.
20 or 120? Yeah.
Yeah. So really strong move today in platinum. If we go back out to the 30-minute chart, there's my failed rocket. It was supposed to take off from there, but it didn't. But we see we crossed above that 200 moving average, the 20 and the 50 strong as well. So maybe we found a medium-term bottom for now in platinum.
Yeah, that sure looks like it. Let's look at it daily. Platinum doesn't trend very well. I said it was wow. See if we can get up to 200 moving average.
This looks
Let's
like a
see
crude
where it
chart.
does from there. It really does.
It looks very much like a crude chart.
But this is probably the biggest range I saw. I remember seeing a little bit in a little while. I mean, as far as pure direction, but still, that is a directionless chart.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is okay, right? I like trading platinum. I don't think I've taken many shorts in platinum, but if we're coming off the lows of this higher time frame range, this may go back on my scouting report until we get somewhere up above 1,000 in platinum. So yeah, I'm gonna keep taking a look at this because it does provide some pretty good intraday trades. Just not in the middle of the range. I feel like I look at platinum for potential when it's at these extremes, and then anytime it's in the middle, it's like, hey, those trades aren't going to be great. So maybe presenting some opportunity again, coming off these higher time frame lows. Anything else on the metals, Coach, before we move on to the energies?
Did we get anything in copper?
Let's see. Copper on a daily looks similar. And if we go down to a 30-minute chart, there it is. Not as urgent as platinum. Looks similar to gold, and then came back and tested this range, but decent trade either way.
At least a good comment by Coach Hoop. coaches, do you think Sunday's Globex openings are more directional than other Globex sessions as a whole? Feels like it. Well, one thing we do know, it comes after it's the beginning of the week. So it feels like it. I haven't done the study. But I think it go like it's a very good question. It feels like it. I can't say yes or no.
Yeah. It feels like it in certain markets. I mean, if you look at Nat Gas or you look at micro Bitcoin, they seem to always open up on Sundays with a gap. Um, and those always seem to be the biggest percentage movers on those days. But yeah, I can't definitively say in all of the markets that we trade that that's a thing, but I might go back and take a look. I might
Yeah,
go back
but
and take a look.
same here.
Before we get into the energies, we got a question from Paul H in the chat. Hi, coaches. What's up, Paul? Today, almost every trade failed for me. How do you guys decide it's not your day and walk away? I stayed, fought all day, and achieved nothing. I'm okay. I just wished I had quit sooner. How do you answer that, coach?
Well, first of all, Mama told me there would be days like this. Um, that's it, it. Those days are going to happen. We don't know when, but when to stop buying is triggered. I keep my personal daily loss limit to 12% of my equity. Because my experience is if I don't do that, I'll let it go. I don't want to take a 50% hit. But if two things, did you follow your process? That's number one on the list. If you abandon your process after a few losers to make up for losses, you need to be honest with yourself, point that out, and really consider what you were feeling like when it happened, because um, when you review it, and I usually do that on the weekend, you're going to find out whether it was you or the second you. um, but all that said, you could, you know, you could have a string of losses doing the right thing. All right, that absolutely can happen. But this is why I cut it off at 12%. That's when I know it isn't happening, and I
I don't
feel
have it.
good that I stopped there. How about you, Coach?
Uh, let me reread the question. How do you guys decide it's not your day and walk away? I try to limit the amount of trades I take, and it doesn't happen, all the time. Sometimes I do trade more than others, but if I'm taking really more than 5 or 6 trades a day, I'm probably doing too much. And for me, it's a feeling. It's a feeling, right? Where it's, hey, I'm not getting anything right. And more so not than, I'm okay with losing trades. I try to identify as quickly as possible when I start taking trades that don't fit any kind of playbook and it's just me clicking a button. Anytime I get into that mode, it's like, okay, walk away. Right. I have clearly defined rules. And if I ever realize that I take a trade that's not based on those rules, then it's probably a good time for me to step away because I'm not thinking clearly. Um, I think when I stick to my rules, there's no issues. So anytime I open up the door for kind of just freestyling it, it's a good time to walk away. Now, do I always do it? I don't. But also on those days where I know that that's the case and I decide to keep trading, it's a decision to accept whatever results are coming out of that. So try to realize in real time if you don't have it. Maybe if you haven't gotten to that point yet, you can start to write it down, right? Use that emotional trade journal that we've shared in Discord before, but write down how you feel before each trade, while you're in the trade and after the trade, right? If it's an emotional thing, maybe that's the time to start walking away. Um, and also, you said, I stayed, fought all day, and achieved nothing. Um, to that point, I want to ask: is it a results based thing, right? Did you just not make any profits on the day, or was there something that you could have learned from today. Because achieving nothing, you may have achieved learning exactly when you should be walking away the next time. Right there might be something to learn in that. So uh, consider. I don't think any day is a complete waste if there's something that you can learn from it. But that might be some like PBS afternoon special stuff, and nobody wants to hear that shit. Uh,
Hey, hey, I I watch PBS all the time.
right. Um, make sure you go ahead and hit that like button. I'm gonna ask real quick because I see we had about 1,000 people watching. Uh, who's new here? Who is this your first time at the buzzer? Let us know. Um, and let us know where you're from. If this is your first time watching, thank you for being here. Like Nelson357 said, hit that like button. Lido, you are not new at all. You change your name at least once a week, but it still always starts with Lido. We got Breezy from Florida, Daniel from Stockholm. We got my dog going
Welcome.
crazy upstairs. Welcome everyone. That boxing match, I don't want to talk about that garbage. Coach, did you watch that?
No, I thought it's going to, and I started falling asleep waiting for it, and I'm like, well, I, the more I thought about it, I'm like, this is a money play, and I
Oh
don't
yeah,
want to be part of this.
a
You
hundred
know,
percent.
it's like it's like WWE. When I was 12 years old, when I figured out this was fake, I stopped watching it. Now, some
Right.
people can be entertained. I don't find that entertaining, so I
Yeah.
just moved on.
The fights before it were definitely, entertaining. The 2 women that fought right before, the main event, that wasn't even a boxing match, that was just a fight, which was pretty good to see. I think the result of that fight went the wrong way, but yeah, that was entertainment play. I think Tyson, caught him with one pretty good shot, and then you could see from that point he held himself back, but I think we need to allow our legends to be legends, and retire gracefully. Uh, I don't want to see Michael Jordan on the basketball court right now either. Um,
No, not even a joke on a joke.
right.
It's true. But how much did each side make is my question, and that's one that
It's a
gnaws
great
on me
trade.
in any of them. Like I said before, I'll fight anyone for $15 million. My errors, if I get killed, my errors will thank me. I
It's a great
just
point.
don't. Come on, man.
Yeah,
But
I was the sacrifice. Eat well. Um, all right, but we see we got some new traders here. We got Walter from Texas. I am from Miami. Tammy, first time from Arkansas. Anthony from Reno. JN from Vancouver. Dropped in a few times. G Hauser from Oregon. Not going to shout out everyone because I probably missed some. But thank you for all of our new joiners. We got 6 from Madison, Wisconsin, but 6 I've seen you here before. It's just a game from Taiwan. What time is it in Taiwan right now?
it's about 12 hours difference.
Wow,
So
it's about 5 o'clock in the morning almost. Thank you
yeah, good
everyone for joining us. Dave
morning.
Stowe has a go ahead, coach.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to get some questions. Why don't you go with that one first?
Yeah, Dave Stowe, when can you expect continuation at a point of resistance from California? Thank you for joining us, Dave. I think that's the first time seeing your name here. When can you expect continuation? So let's find a market that was potentially at a resistance. I will let's look at the Nasdaq. Actually, you know what? We always look at the Nasdaq. Let's look at crude oil and see. Here we go. We got some resistance, higher time frame resistance here in crude oil, right around the $69 level, 69.20, we'll call it. We can see it on a 30-minute chart. Every time we've come up here, we see a little bit of a rejection. For me, I'm going to look for volume through that level, right? So I'm going to mark out we'll just put a kind of general line around there at 69.20, and then I'm going to go down to a shorter time frame. And what I want to see is significant volume above it, right? Every time we come up to this line, the volume's kind of dying out. I don't want to see this, right, for potential continuation. I want to see volume increasing up here and then a candle close. For me personally, the first visit of a resistance, especially if it's on a higher time frame, I'm going to expect a rejection. Um, but the more we hit it, right? So now if we look at the $69 level, we hit it We came up, tested it once, tested it twice, 3 times. I'm looking at this as the potential for this area to be weaker, right? Every test that we get. But what I want to see for continuation is it becomes support, actually. So we need to close above this 69.20. Ideally, see some volume coming in and then use it as a support. What about you, Coach? How are you looking at continuation?
Um, you know, I really don't look for it.
Yeah.
It's an expectation in the trade, at a target. If I want the trade, I'm going to put it on, put my stop in, and then hope it continues if I'm long. Um, that's a very good question because then if you're expecting continuation, when you put the trade on, you set yourself up sometimes like, come on, you start, give the cheerleader thing. We start cheering for it to go, and every time it doesn't, it turns around and goes against it. Then we get disappointed. Um, being if like I boy, if I'm expecting continuation, I have to enter in this case along. How much is it going to cost me? When am I wrong?
Right.
If it's going to continue, they're going to have a continuation. That means it's got a breakout trade. Well, I don't see that goes, I don't know. And I have to have that mantra is I don't know, but I'm willing to pay risk X to see if it does.
Yep.
Um,
100%.
because you know, I go through the point is I don't know, but a follow through against highs of the day when it's up already. It's probably had its full. Is this in the crude? It already had its full average
Yep.
true range.
Yeah, it
Then
was up 3% at that point.
that's asking a lot.
Hmm.
It could happen, but thinking in probabilities, I wouldn't take the trade. I think you need to think that on the opening. That's when you're going to get the chance at it. But once it's already up like that, there's a
Yeah.
very slim possibility. Um, and
We had a trader the other day in the VIPs ask about some specific breakout strategies, and I really tried to think if I have any, and I think I've stopped trading that way. Where like coming up to this resist, like I don't see in my trading strategy an entry long here until we break, come back and retest it again. Um, just because of the amount of false breakouts that we have, and there may be a strategy. I just when I had to answer that question, I'm just like I don't know that I specifically have one, right? If I'm looking at this area here, just on a price and kind of market structure basis, it's setting up as a better short than a long. But and that's because we're kind of at this resistance. If I'm looking to take a long here, I need a pullback to maybe maybe 50 ticks off of crude oil before I get in a long here.
yeah, good point. Like I said, and if you're looking for continuation, look for it within the first hour or I it's because continuation mostly comes in swing trading or position trading. Um, so time of day is important also.
For sure. All right.
I had a quick question here from Nelson.
Okay.
Coach Paul, when you started out, how did you obtain knowledge of futures contracts? I see a lot of traders are purchasing combines without understanding the basics of offer, bid, contract, month, etc. I started on the exchange floor. I worked for the exchange as a time and sales clerk, first as a board marker, then what was referred to as a pit reporter, where I recorded all the trades in the pit. It was direct, and that was fortunate because I had to know it because that was my job. Um, Now the CME has all sorts of information for beginning traders about contracts, contract size, tick size. it's really good. I would suggest, if you're just beginning trading, is to go to the Merck site and check those educational sites out to give you an idea of all the different futures contracts, what their ticks are, um, what bid and offer contract months, all the above.
Uh, Only thing I would add to that is make sure you join Coach Hoops class as well in Discord. 4:30 Central Time every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Coach Hoops Fundamentals Forum in Discord, and kind of goes over some of the basics with futures trading, and then gets into his trading style as well. But shout out to Coach Hoop for doing that and kind of teaching the basis for some of the stuff that we do here. Sometimes it's easy to just be like, oh yeah, I'm enjoying this thing and I'm just clicking around. I had a trader when we were doing one-on-ones, get into an account and say, all right, how do I buy a call? I'm just like, I get it, but right, just understanding some of the language about what it is that you're trading just helps with the understanding of it. So we'll go from there. Crude oil, looking at it on the 30-minute chart, it looks like platinum kind of cross above this 200 moving average and settle above it. It's been a resistance on this way down, but we finally got a close below, and the 20 is now, starting to trend up. And maybe crude does what crude does and ranges between $67 and $72. So if I'm looking at this, maybe a potential pullback to this 20 moving average for some continuation. Of course, the market is going to do whatever it wants to do, and I have to trade it that way. But I would be looking to the long side in crude, just kind of coming off of these lows here. All right. Coach, any other markets we want to discuss? We got a question from Monica as well, but any other markets you want to discuss for now, Coach?
Natural gas.
I guess.
It's always on that percentage leaderboard. Look at that gap from last night. Now there's a classic fill the gap and go.
Yep. Wow. And it doesn't do this all the time. Go ahead, Coach.
No, it doesn't. And that was a classic because it isn't just about filling the high. It went to the settlement.
Mm.
And then wicked to go right back to the highs from last night. So I didn't want to show that. That was a huge, and it's been doing that on Sunday nights, gapping. I could come up with some tinfoil reason why it's happening, and it might make sense to me, but does it really matter? All you can do is trade in the present. I would never buy that gap like that. That's just way too much risk. So for the brave, or if you wanted to sell it, I mean, just selling it. Let's say we sold it on the opening. Well, where's our out? Right? So
Right.
So if I sold that in the first couple minutes, I'd have to take some heat. With the fear too on a Sunday night, you don't know where that's going to stop. You may feel like it.
Right.
So how do you sell that with just blindly? And this could be, by the way, this could be anything. So there, is that the first half hour?
Yeah, it ends up being. I'm on a 3-minute chart, but it ends up being the first half an hour. We had that range
go.
established in the first 6 minutes.
In the first 6 minutes. So, we could wait for a breakout. We could just sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And against new highs, and how much do we risk? Probably about $500.
Right.
Do you have that appetite? Can you afford that? You could do smaller contracts, or you could just trade micros or minis. But when we did break out of that, even we were under Vwap. Then Vwap breaks out later. That's a hard trade to make. I just want to go through that with people. I would say this: You get something like that, step away. You don't have to trade that. If you, the people who have to trade it are the ones that are either short
Right.
from over the weekend. They don't have much of a choice. But as you know, we talk about trading different markets. When you see just gaps like that, leave that to the people who have to trade it. But I did find interesting is if you wait till the New York Open or Chicago Open, 8 o'clock this morning,
8 a.m. Central Time.
Central Time.
All right, that's right here.
Now,
Different
let's go
trade.
back. See, did we different trade? Did we fill the gap?
Gap fill happened on
Yes.
the open.
Okay. Now we can put a VWAP there. Now that's the trade. Actually, and on my break, that's a trade I made.
Very nice.
And I did, and then still I did 2 minis. I still was not didn't want to take the full risk of a full.
Mm,
But why I said that, when you see gaps like that, sometimes we're tempted just to fade it. And you would have been right, but you don't know how much heat.
yeah.
Um, I like a defined trade, and why I bring this up, this is a classic example. Last night, my first gut was to sell that, but if in doubt, stay out. But when it filled the gap and it wicked, and it was on the opening of the Chicago opening. Now I have a defined trade. Now I'm letting things develop. So actually, I starting to get starting to feel a little bullish on natural gas.
Okay.
Um,
Let's look at it on a daily. Oh wow, look where that wick was.
yeah, on the 20-day moving average. Now this is a continuation chart, right?
It is.
Yeah, it's a little different on a non-continuation chart, and what the difference is natural gas trades every month expiration. Same as crude. Now, if you're trading equities, the Nasdaq and S&P, it has quarterly expirations, and it makes a big difference when you're taking data. For all our data scientists out there, you know what I mean. Because it's gotta go back, and every one of those settlements is going to have some difference in it that can really make the back data fuzzy. But that said, the breaks and Nasdaq has been. We look at that daily. It's been on a very bearish ride for the last few years. Now it's starting to bounce along at lows, having sharp rallies. Um, Coming into the winter, you never know. They call that the widow maker. I think that's a relative term. People who bought it that low and sold it high aren't weren't
Yeah, they're not
crying.
having fun.
But just with anything, it's starting to really show some signs of life. So we'll see. But it was a great example of what I've been preaching patience. That was a great patient trade. Let it
100%.
come to you. Be comfortable, or let it go.
Just to confirm again, I'm seeing some conversation in the chat about losing trades. If your losing trades happen between 8:30 Central Time, 8:30 a.m. Central Time, and 3:10 Central Time, that's the New York session, then those trades will be wiped. Inevitably, there are going to be people like, "Oh, I lost a trade overnight." If the team does not see that there were any widespread issues overnight, then those are not going to be included. So, want to be very specific about the time frame that we're saying trades will automatically be reset. That's 8:30 Central Time to 3:10 Central Time. If there are any other platform issues that you had outside of that, you would have to go and raise a ticket with support and be patient with the support team. But as a default, 8:30 Central Time to 3:10 Central Time will be removed. And if you've already reached out to support, you did the right thing. Be patient with the support team, and they will get back to you. Coach, let's talk about another market that gapped open. Micro Bitcoin gap to the downside and ultimately filled this gap. We came down to that white line on the 30-minute chart. And again, Bitcoin is a 24/7 market, but what we're trading here are the futures. So especially on Sunday night opens, we're going to see this gap. But a really nice opportunity here. Again, another market that's opening up that first 30 minutes is making the low for the day and gave you 3 opportunities to buy it at the same price today.
What's that white line, Coach?
The white line is the 200 moving average. We're looking at it on a 30-minute chart. We can see it supportive here earlier in the week, supportive again today, not once, kind of twice. This is a market in a very strong uptrend. I'm going to put my emojis back on here because this thing is not stopping. Let's get the
Buy the
moon.
dips.
Let's put it up here. Yeah. Buy every dip is what this feels like for now.
And by the way, buy the dip with your risk defined.
For 100%. Yeah, because we don't know, right? We don't know. And again, anything we talk about here is for educational purposes only, not any suggestions to take a trade. But it's hard to deny that this market is in a very strong uptrend right now. Obviously, with the new administration that's coming in the U.S. and Trump as early as today saying he's going to meet with the CEO of Coinbase. He's not meeting with him to talk about crypto going down. I'll say that much. That's probably not on the agenda for that meeting. But who knows what they talk about? But very strong markets. Again, we don't care about the why, more so the fact that something is happening, and this market is just trending up. David Carty says, I took a beauty trade on MBT, got in at 9,800 and took it to 92,500. It's a great trade.
Nice.
And David, I want to ask on that, how much stress were you in on that trade? It's 50 cents a tick, unless you were trading, 15 contracts where it can get a little expensive. How much stress was there in that trade at all? It's pretty low.
Yeah, at 50 cents a tick, you might say, oh, well, that's for, it's not for me. I'm too cool for school.
Right.
The average true range, I'll check on the daily. I got the 60 minute here. Come on.
5 contracts, no drawdown. Nice. Go ahead, Coach.
Nice. That's a nice trade.
Mm-hmm.
The average true range is now almost $5,000. So it's $2,500 range. I don't want that. I don't know if I'm not going to preach anymore.
Yeah.
We've been talking about this for over a year. It's a great place to trade. Someone was asking earlier, are other places, and I highly suggest micro Bitcoin.
Yeah, it's a good one. It is a good one. I know, Coach Paul, you traded very often. I traded it last night. It is a good market to trade. All right, we got about 5 minutes left. Did have a question from Monica. Dakota made a really good trade this morning after taking a loss. Can you explain the opening trade and trade at the open and how it works? So Dakota's trade was in the Nasdaq. Sometimes you'll hear, different schools of thought on this. Some people say don't trade the market open. Some people say that's the best time, that's the best volatility. Dakota was looking for a long initially. And the way I'm looking at the opening trade, for me, I'm looking at the first 3 minutes. Some people will look at 1 minute. Some people will look at 15 minutes. But the idea is when the market opens up at 8:30 Central Time for that, that's regular trading hour session open, it establishes a range right now, whether that's a 1 minute range, a 5-minute range, 15-minute range. You kind of decide what that is for you. The way I'm looking at this is once the range is established, I'm personally going to attach VWAP to the range and see if I want to take a trade in either direction. I want this volume, this red line, to leave the range. So Dakota's buy, and he's basing his trades on something completely different, right? He's looking at some market structure. He's looking at, there was some support down here. So the first trade he took was somewhere in the middle of this opening range, got stopped out. The great thing about Dakota is that was just one trade in the thousands that I'm going to take. So I'll take it again. And when the market came down, kind of tested this 20,500, used it as a support. He took the trade again, and then we closed outside of the opening range. If I'm taking a long, where Dakota probably got, that's not true. I took a long down here. But if I'm trading, if I'm okay,
But if I did,
okay, so I'll actually explain why I took that long, right? We have the opening range established. We had VWAP, which was pretty much a flat line at that time, and price leaving the range. You see how VWAP is flat? Price left the range to the upside and didn't continue. We don't talk about this often, but this is a short signal for me. Same thing here. When price leaves the range to the downside, but VWAP is flat, this is a long signal because flat VWAP tells me trade it like a range bound market until it shows you any different. There was also a high volume event that happened down here. It's not going to show up on this chart, but you guys know I trade on Quant Tower. There was a high volume event that showed up here down at 20,500. So I took the long from there and then traded it up to about 600. But
did you buy some for me?
I got you next time, Coach. I'll make
Thanks.
sure I get one for you. Tell him to throw it in the bag. But yeah, so the opening trade is identifying the opening range. Use whatever short time frame chart that you use, right? You might hear me say 3-minute. Don't switch to a 3-minute chart if you don't use it. If you use a 5-minute, just look at it on the 5-minute, right? Some people will use the 15-minute. And each time frame is going to give you different information, right? Where a 15-minute, a close outside on the 15-minute may give you less false signals than a 1-minute. And then going from there.
Yeah, a great point, and I want to reiterate that. Whatever you execute your trade in, do not look at another time frame and make another decision. It needs to remain in the same time frame.
Yep. Yeah. Because if you keep switching, you're going to get different information every single time. What's that volume red line indicator or the VWAP? So this is anchored VWAP here, this red line here, and then this red line down here is just the volume average.
For the day?
For the last 20 candles on that time frame. So volume average for the 3-minute. So sometimes I'll even look at that for trade signals, right? Anytime we get a volume anomaly, something significantly above that average, a candle like this, right? Significantly above that average, I can use it the same way I look at the opening range, anchor to that and a decent long. And then this was the trade that we talked about in the S&P where highest volume outside of the initial balance and that presenting a decent short opportunity as well. Coach, we got 40 seconds left. Any words before we go? And we can always extend it. Time always flies when you're having fun. But anything we have before we go, Coach?
That would be it. One of the things, let's review it. What did we learn today for those who are asking questions? I think the most pertinent question is when to go identify when it's time to stop trading for the day.
100%.
And I highly recommend you start with your trade equity, and it's worked for me. 15% of your total equity, and you need to stop. That's my that's what I'd like to reiterate. That's what I've learned, and since that time I have not blown accounts. How about you, Coach?
Awesome. I love what you just said there, Coach. Depict says excellent. We had a shit ton of information and wisdom. Cheers. That's why we're here. Hopefully, we can help you in your trading journey. This is your first time here. Make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Um, Coach Paul and I eat off of likes. It's and actually, hold on a second. Um, Let me just check my notes here. Uh, Today is a special day, isn't it?
And why is that?
I think we got a birthday for
Oh,
someone
Jesus
on the
Christ.
screen. So before we get out of here, if you guys liked what we've done so far, I didn't want to distract us all
I don't-
during the session, but let's get a thumbs up for Coach Paul's birthday in the chat. It's his 30th birthday today.
Thank-
Um, let's
yeah.
get some thumbs up. Let's hit that like button. Happy birthday, Coach! Thank you for
Thank you.
joining us.
I'll
Uh,
I'll do 30 shots tonight.
there we go.
How did you know that? That's
Uh,
supposed to be a
I,
secret.
I know everything. I know everything. So happy birthday to you, Coach. Hopefully you were able to celebrate some time this weekend. Or if not, if you got some plans for later on in the week. Thank you for joining us
Th-
today. How does it feel, Coach? Another year.
Uh, another year, and another year of working with you, Coach Jay. It feels great. Like I said, uh, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and my partner here, I've learned a lot from, and enjoying it. One thing great about trading, you never really get old. If
There we
you
go.
really figure it out, keeps you young. Um, and I thank you, everyone, for the birthday wishes. Coach, shout out to you. Thank you.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure.
awesome.
Take a shot for me, Coach. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you, everyone, for joining. We will talk to you all tomorrow. Trade well, manage your risk, and we will see you then. Thanks.
All right. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.